In this presentation, the objectives we're trying to achieve: we want to be able to explain the basic theory of the registry on the Windows operating system. We want to back up the current registry database using the registry editor. We want to create a new entry and delete an entry in the Autorun section using the registry editor. We want to delete an entry in the Autorun section using the Autorun S application. And we want to describe the role of the registry database in certain malware attacks. In some of the earlier versions of Windows, they had to store various information about different programs and for the operating system itself. And they used a concept called INI files. Now, they used other files also, but basically it was files stored on your system that contained the settings. And this is under my current Windows 7 machine. And here's a WinINI. If I right click on this, and I'm going to open with Notepad, you'll see different settings. So they would have fonts, extensions. There's nothing up there, but you get down here to mail, and you have this setting. You get down to MCI extensions.bak, then you have these settings. Now, if you wanted to make a change to a program, you either had to manually go in and add an entry here, or you had to have an install program that would update the INI. And you'll see that I have quite a few INIs out here, and I couldn't tell you what all these are. Nobody could. Here's a desktop. Here's some counters. There's ASP.NET, looks like. Let me go on that one. Excuse me. And you'll see lots of different options here. The idea was that you'd have an INI file associated with your computer program that you wrote, and you'd store it in one location, and then you can easily access it. Well, my concern was if I stored it in one central location, the same as everybody else, then maybe the name that I gave my INI file would match the name of somebody else's INI file. And I would overwrite theirs, or they'd overwrite mine, and there'd be a problem. I named many of my INI files strange names to avoid this, and finally I got to the point where I stored the INI under the same location as the program I wrote. So if I put it in a particular folder, that's where I put the INI file. Well, the nightmare maintenance of the INI files caused Microsoft to think of a different concept. And what they came up with was a registry. And this is a database. This is a registry editor that allows changes to the database. But it's a database of all the settings for the entire machine, in theory. Now you may say, well, what do you mean in theory? Well, you just saw over in the other screen how many INI files were on my particular computer. So some applications, for whatever reason, are still using INI files. And there's a reason for that. When you have everything stored in one location, in one central database, that makes it a lot easier to attack. It's not hard to find out where everything's at because it's right there. So from a security standpoint, you may find some programs choose still to use the INI concept. Now, if I expand the local machine, you'll see different options here. Current user, that's whoever signed on currently. And console, control panel. Now, in coming up with this, INI files did have a standard way back when, but you didn't have to follow it. Like my particular INI files, I wrote them like I wanted, and I retrieved their information. When Microsoft came up with this registry database concept, they came up with a particular way that it has to look. That you're going to have your name, you'll have a type, and then you have data associated with that. And they try to make it flexible so that if you add a new entry here, You could have strings, you could have binary, you could have all different kinds of options available. Now, when you're writing a computer program and you want to write out an INI file, you have to write out all these individual ones. Now that it might just be your install program, and install programs handle this for you. So you're sitting there, well, that's kind of a nightmare to write a program to input all these entries. And again, not necessarily. You may have 500 entries, and the installation file you can tell it different ways. You could manually enter for the installation, or you could have like a skeleton that's imported into the install application, and then it'll put it out here. So there's easier ways of doing it than just to write a computer program that adds all these entries. Definitely you can write a computer program. You write one through Visual Basic, C#, some other programming language, and you can add an entry directly through your program. Now this concept has been going on for a while. It's a sound idea. It does have some problems. We'll talk about later on in this presentation in terms of malware attacks, but it just makes it so much simpler to debug, to maintain. You still have to worry about naming issues. Like if I were to put my own information out here in this registry, and this isn't just specific to Microsoft, this is for anybody to input. You do have to have certain admin rights in order to update certain parts of the registry, especially for I'm under current user, but the local machine, this affects everybody. So to be able to change entries here, to delete them, to add them, you have to have certain admin rights for parts of this registry. Oftentimes under current user, you can input much of that yourself, because that's yourself. And when you make changes to any program, then it'll automatically update that. So of course you have to have rights for that. Now that's an overview of the registry concept that Microsoft adopted. Let's take a look at how to back up the registry. I'm going to click the Start button and type regedit. It'll ask you if you want to make changes to this computer. Click yes. Now you'll have these three main items. We'll have current user, local machine, and then there's also users. And the two main ones you use are the current user and local machine. The users, you'll find other users of the system, which may be an option that you want to explore, but more than likely the current user is one you want to take a look at. So I'm going to expand the current user. Then here's software. That's where all our options are stored for the software. And if I expand that, you'll see Microsoft. And if I expand that, these are all our Microsoft products that have options stored out here. If I come down to, there's a Windows and Windows NT. These are the two items that we'll be taking a look at specifically. But if I expand Windows NT, I see current version. If I expand that, then you'll see all the different options that you can access there under Windows. If I expand that, you see current version also. Expand that, you see run once. We'll talk more about some of these items in a different part of the video. Now these run every time you start up your computer, when you sign on as that user specifically. You see I got an Adobe Bridge and Zoom. Now interestingly enough, these do not have any data here for Adobe Bridge and Zoom. Here it actually tells us the application is going to run. So for Google Update, looks like it's going to run this file. And for this net session, looks like it's going to run this one. If I'm going to make changes to this option here, then I want to make a backup before I do that. And I wouldn't recommend making changes and then restarting your computer or logging out and logging back in. you have to be careful about what you change here. If you delete the wrong item in your registry, then it can cause your operating system to quit working. There's different options available under the file menus where you can do a file new and choose a key. You can choose a string value, binary value, so forth. Now if you choose key, then it'll come up with a new item under run, which isn't necessarily what you want. I'm going to right click on that and choose delete. I'm going to delete this key again because it's kind of telling you that this might be a dangerous item to do, is to delete that. Okay, go back to run. Now if I do an edit, new, and then I choose a string value, then you see it actually puts a new entry under here. And let me do a test string. If I double click this, here's the value data. And I'm going to put some bogus data in there. And you see I got runit.exe. It's not in the right format. That file is not there, so it won't work. But that's not in my registry. Anytime I logged in as this user, then it would try to run that. Okay. Now I want to make changes. So I'm going to back this up first. Once you got the run highlighted, you can right click on it and you can choose export. Then at that point, we want to store the file, and I'll store it in this location here, and I'll call it backup run.reg. That indicates it's a registration file. Now if I click save, we'll look at that here in a minute, but let me delete this to testing. So I'll right click on that and choose delete, or you can choose edit here and delete, or you can press delete. Many different ways you can delete an entry, but I'll right click on that and click delete. Then I'll click yes. Now if I bring up that folder, you'll see your registry file. And I'm going to right click on this and I'll choose edit, or you could do an open with if you're not sure what it'll come up with. And since I'm not quite sure what it'll come up with on my computer, I'm going to do an open with, and I'm going to bring up Notepad and then click OK. As you look through here, you'll see that it has the location of where these items are, and also has the entry that I just put in there. I deleted that, didn't I? Well, if I come up here and I delete this and leave it like that, well, then my backup won't have that file anymore. It's not what I want to demonstrate. Let's say I really did want that file. Let me close this. Then for this backup, if I double click that and click yes, it'll say adding information can unintentionally change or delete values and cause components to stop working. If you do not trust source this information, do not add to registry. Are you sure you want to continue? And click yes. It says the keys and values contained in the backup have been successfully added to the registry. Now if I come over here, all of a sudden we see our entries back. So this is the way you can do a backup. If for some reason you delete an entry and it's actually one that you need and something's not working quite correct, then you can start up your computer in safe mode and put that entry back in. Always do a backup before you do any major changes to your registry. Let's take a look at adding and deleting an entry in the registry. I click my start and I type regedit. Click yes. I'm going to go into the current user, and then I want to go in software. Then I want to go into Microsoft. Then I want to choose Windows, current version, and you'll see a run option here. Now we looked at adding an entry when we did our backup, but you have to understand the different parts of the entry in order to add it correctly. You're probably not going to ever do this, but to add an entry, you can right click and you can choose new, and the key adds these main items here, like Action Center, App Paths, Applets. The string value will add in what you see here. The other options we're not going to go over in the interest of time, but let's choose string value. And let's say I'm developing a program and I want it to run every time the computer starts and the user signs in as their user. I'm under the user, so I'm in the correct location. And maybe this is going to be a consulting app. That's what I'll call it, maybe consult app. Now this name here can be anything. So any valid name, I should say. If you have put some strange characters in there, it may not allow that. But you can see up here we got spaces, a mixture of lowercase, uppercase. If you double click that, the value data here, this has to be in the correct form for whatever you're attempting to work with. You note in order to determine the correct form, you can actually look at other items to see what's going on with it. Here's Google Update. If I double click that, you can see that we've got quotations around it. Then we got the complete path, and then /C. Now you'll find that different items have parameters that go with them. Options, like this one, does not have a /C. Now the consulting app. Let me double click that again, and if we put quotes around this. Maybe this is stored at c:/consult/consult.exe. Then I'll click OK. Now every time it signs on, it'll try to run that. So it has to be in the correct format. This one I added in when we were doing our backup just for testing purposes, and you notice it doesn't look like it's in the correct form. So if you're going to be working with the registry, I'd recommend just browse. Look at these different items and see how they're set up. Now, most of the times you will not visit a user's machine and do these entries directly. These are pushed through the network. For a company 500, we can push this particular entry here into all 500 machines next time they log in. That's the beauty of the registry combined with networking. That's how to add an entry. To delete an entry, you can click the one you want to delete, and you right click on it and you choose delete. Then you click yes. On this one, I could right click on it and also do a delete. I'm going to leave it in there because I want to show this in another application how to clean this up. But that's how you add and delete entries in your registry. Let's take a look at Autorun S. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. Make sure you run the one with the Autorun S, not the Autorun SC. That's if you want to do something at the command line, that's the option you'd use. This is the GUI, the graphical user interface. I'll click a run on that. Now this brings up, in a very user-friendly manner, many of the items you see in the registry, because the registry can be dangerous. If you click something by accident, then perhaps your system won't start. If you delete something by accident, then again it can cause different issues. Now the registry is not a clean database. You see here that these say file not found. Well, these are items that maybe were uninstalled, but perhaps didn't uninstall different pieces. The file not found means that I could actually delete these, and my system would still work just fine. But I'm gonna come over here. There's a log on option, and this shows all the different items that I can shut off in terms of my log on. Now you'll notice under here, under the software, Microsoft Windows current version run, that probably looks familiar. That's where we added our consulting app, and you see that it says file not found, so it actually recognized that the file's gone. And even more, we got looks like Yahoo Messenger here, but it's not checked. Only the checked ones are the ones that are actually run when your computer logs on, and specifically when you log on as a user. Now some of these other ones up here, you see you've got your software, WoW 6432 node, Microsoft Windows current version run. Some of these are run just when you run the Windows. Here's Microsoft Windows current version run. So the consulting app that we added, to cause that to not be run anymore, you can uncheck this. Now sometimes when you make changes here, it'll tell you you need to run this in administrator mode. It'll prompt you. It'll come up and say, hey, you need to run this as administrator, and you just click yes, and then it restarts the program and so forth. Now I have changed mine, so it looks like it doesn't ask me that anymore. Okay, Google Update. Maybe I don't want Google Update to be running every time, so I can uncheck that, and I don't want it to run. Now Net Session. This might be questionable. Net Session, that sounds like something important. I'd want to research this before I just shut this off. Up here, we got Avast. Probably don't want to shut off my antivirus. Here's a driver for HP. Probably not a good idea to shut that off. Macro Key Manager, that's for my tablet I use in my math courses, so I don't want to shut that off. It's probably not a bad idea to make a backup of this before you start making changes. And when I say make a backup, you simply press your print screen, and then you go over to Word and you paste it in, and then save that or print it off. That way, if something quits working, you can come in here and it's very easy. It won't actually delete this since I unchecked it. I can go into this again and just simply check it, and it now runs that whenever you log on. But that's how you can make safe changes using the Autorun S. There is no save feature. As you click it, it will automatically save that into the registry. Realize this is a user-friendly interface to the registry, so you're making changes in real time to the registry database. The registry allowed all the entries to be in one location. All the options, every item about your computer is stored here. For example, for the current user, all the items that go with the control panel are here. How I've configured my mouse. If I click the mouse, see I got the mouse speed here, and it's currently set to 1. Well, I could double click that and change that to 3. Now, it may not take effect until I log in. You won't find this dynamically changes, like my mouse is super fast now, but that's an option I can change. Let me put it back to 1. The desktop, infrared, lots of different options here. Well, think what I'm saying. We've stored everything in one database. This is a prime target for somebody wanting to perhaps do some damage to your computer, to have a program run automatically when your system starts up. There's lots of different options under this, and I'm not an expert on this. what you'll find is that you have to go through Microsoft certification to understand all these different items under here. As an IT professional, though, you should know some of the basics so you can do some basic troubleshooting yourself. If I expand software, you won't have the same options as me. And we want to go to Microsoft. Looks like I already have this expanded. And then Windows, current version, run. If I'm going to try to infect your system in some manner, one method is to come here and put a new entry. Now sometimes you can easily spot that because the directory location does not match where it should be stored at. So you can go to a search engine and you can find out, you can Google where should it actually be stored at. And if it's stored in some bizarre directory location, probably it's a virus, because there's set places where these items need to be stored at. They won't just store a particular file in any location. Another method to determine is, since this is under app data, local, KME, net session, then expand that, net session _ win .exe. This particular file here should have a size associated with it, and these sizes are stored off. When this company came up with this program, this particular version of that program, because there may be different versions with the same name, but like if this was version 3, then it would have a size associated with it. And this is oftentimes how a virus protection package will determine if a file, if there's something incorrect about a file. If the file size is too large, then that could mean that it's not the file it should be, or perhaps something's been tacked on to the end of that particular program that will cause a malware to run in your computer. The run is one place. There's run once. Now the run once is, remember where you've in the past installed a software and then it'll tell you to reboot your computer so you can finish the installation. This run once is what it runs that second after you restart the computer. Usually you don't see an option stay and run once for many cycles. You may have a different software package that maybe you have to reboot twice to get it installed, but typically you don't see that. Okay, now that's under Windows. You'll also find options under Windows NT. Now, you may have some under Windows, you may not have under Windows NT, or you may have them under both. So there's no real reason. It's kind of based upon whatever you've installed on your computer. Now, if I expand the current version, then as you look down here, you see we have less options, and I don't see any particular Autorun that's being run, so I can't expand it any further. Now that was under current user. Under local machine, this is where somebody who's trying to infect your computer would cause something to run, and it would be under your local machine, and this will affect every user of the system, not just the current user, but any user. Now, you have permissions to install programs, maybe, on a computer. Administrator rights gives you access to everything, but perhaps they give you access to certain parts of the registry. If I come to software here, you probably have to be under administrator to be able to input entries here. Now you see there's again different options available here. I'm going to Microsoft, and I'll scroll down. You see we got Windows again. Expand that, and current version. Expand that, and you see we got run. Looks like it runs this HP program here. This macro key manager. Now you maybe look at that and say, well, it doesn't say the directory location. These are handled differently. There's each entry here is not maybe specific to just that one program, but there may be 100 entries spread throughout the registry, and they sometimes work in conjunction with each other to figure out where it's stored at. It doesn't necessarily search your entire hard drive trying to find this file. When I say that, you can see that I got many different programs installed here. Here's a Elmo program, ImageMate. Here's some environment, language, and you can see here's a binary. We didn't add a binary, but probably you're not sitting there manually inputting this. This is generated and stored, and it represents, the program that generated this and stored it, it represents something about the system for Elmo that needs to be stored. As a programmer, you can create your own entries out here, and you can store off anything you want to save for the user to use in the next run of the program. For example, in Word, when you run it a second time, you can access the recent Word documents that you brought up. You can change various options in Word, the font size perhaps, and you save it off, and then next time you go in, it'll have that new font size, the new font. Of course, having all this in one place, this is just a prime target for hackers, because they know they can come in here, they can put entries in, and the average person does not know how to get into the registry. Many IT professionals do not fully understand the registry. Like I say, to become an expert at this, you have to get a Microsoft certification. So it's not a trivial matter to understand how all these different options work together. And that's just the software. There's hardware associated with the computer. SAM, couldn't tell you what SAM is. Like I say, I'm not an expert on this, and you don't have to be an expert. Think how long it would take you to understand every option on here. We had a Microsoft certified systems engineer come to work for a company that I was at, and he didn't understand everything that was out here. I doubt if you'd find somebody at Microsoft that understood all the different entries that could be out here. They focus on just their particular part of the registry. There's system. Now here's an interesting one. Classes root. This is where a lot of different options are stored. And you see I got .blend here. Expand that. And comes down here. And you get down to your data here. Well, you can see if you look at the data, it's like, what does that mean? Well, that take a lot to try to figure out what in the world that's referring to. The .blend is an extension on your computer. This is for Blender files. Okay, the reason why I kind of go over this miscellaneous information, I want you to understand how the registry is a complete database of everything on your Windows. So if this gets damaged, if it gets you have some kind of virus, some kind of malware that attacks this, then this is where a lot of damage can be done. From an IT standpoint, before you start calling a company and paying $150 an hour to debug a computer, simply come out here, go to your current user, go to the software, go to Microsoft, and see if something's running that shouldn't be. Very simple check to be done. Or you can use Autorun S and find the same information. If you're a home user even, and you have a little bit of IT knowledge, if you're to the point where your computer is slowed down so much that you're ready to buy a new one, come out here and uncheck every one of those items in Autorun S under the run option, no matter where it's at. Reboot and see if your computer's faster. If you're going to get a new computer anyway, what does it matter? And you might find that a lot of those options will really slow down your computer. So this is a invaluable debugging technique to use either the registry or Autorun S. Let's summarize what we learned in this presentation. We learned the basic theory on the registry on a Windows operating system. Basically, it holds all the settings for the entire machine, for Windows, for every application you have installed. We learned how to back up the current registry database using the registry editor. And remember, that's important because if you're going to make direct changes to the registry database, then you should make a backup just in case you change the wrong item, you delete the wrong item, so forth. We learned how to create a new entry and delete an entry in the Autorun section using the registry editor. You probably never actually create a new entry, though it's good to understand the concept behind it. But delete an entry might be an item you'd want to do as an IT professional. If you have a program that shouldn't be on a machine, you can delete it. If a user calls you up and their computer's running very slow, you can visit the machine and see what's in the Autorun section and get rid of some of those items that are installed that shouldn't be running. Example of that is if you install a reader of some sort, a viewer of some sort, they'll ask you, do you want to automatically be notified of updates? When they ask you that, they're getting ready to put an entry in your Autorun section. We learned how to delete an entry in the Autorun section using the Autorun S application. Again, this is a user-friendly tool, though it's not just used by the common user of the machine, but it's also used by IT professionals, because then they don't have to worry so much about potentially damaging the registry database. And we described the role of the registry database in certain malware attacks. And this is definitely not all the different malware attacks that can be run on your particular machine using the run or run once feature. Those are the most apparent ones. You have to learn a lot more about the inner workings of your computer to understand fully all the different points in the registry and on your machine that you need to analyze to see what's potentially running that shouldn't be. In this presentation, we took a look at the registry and it just gave a very basic overview of it. There's much detail that goes into the registry. It would take us maybe a year, maybe 2 years to fully understand and get enough knowledge to get certification in being able to troubleshoot a machine like a systems engineer.